A wise man told me we are never given a dream without being given the power to make it true. You'll have to work for it, though. I'm Ron Schneider. Back in the 60s, I grew up around California theme parks, dreaming that someday I could make my living with that same kind of magic. In 1971, I got my first performing job at Magic Mountain. The 40 years that followed were one wild ride. And these are the stories of others who had that same dream and made it come true. Hi, welcome to Wild Rides. I'm Ron Schneider. This episode will be a shining example of why this show is called Wild Rides. My guest today, he's a bon vivant, he's a Muppet, he's a playwright, a producer, an actor, an activist, a parodist, a broadcaster, columnist, and critic, and he's the reason that we're doing the show today on a 7-second delay. He's written 24 original plays. He's one of the reasons that the Orlando Fringe Festival has thrived, and I'm delighted to welcome Michael Wanzie to Wild Rides.
Thank you for having me, Ron. It's a pleasure to be here. I love your stat.
You like that?
Yeah.
Just something we threw together.
Yeah, I can see. No.
This is something we threw up, actually. It's a place to start on this little journey of ours. Might be, I think, with your biographical opus, Wanzie with a Z.
Yes.
Talk about that project as a way of getting into your personal story.
Okay, I did Wanzie with a Z very begrudgingly. My best friend, one of my best friends, is Kenny Howard. He's a theatrical, he's the education director for Florida Theatrical Association, and he's directed 20 now of my 29 plays and musicals. And he had always wanted me to do an autobiographical piece, which I just thought was self-serving and ridiculous and might make sense if I had a show on Broadway or something, but why would anyone want to see an for years I put him off. So when I turn 60, I'll do it. Well, finally that day came and he held me to it. So I wrote it, and I wrote it to be done with 3 actors, with me being the eldest, and then someone playing me in about the 30s, and then a 16-year-old kid playing me in my younger days. We were all 3 on stage at the same time, each taking turns telling the appropriate stories and the other one's commenting on it. Like the little one asking a question that I find humiliating, and I said, thought you didn't know what that word meant, homosexual. And he says, I didn't, but now that I'm finding out, I don't like the way we're turning out, things like that. But a good chunk of the play has to do with Disney and how I ended up literally running away from home shortly after my 17th birthday, dropped out of high school to be a Jungle Cruise skipper at Disney. And the play bears out that in 1973, while here on vacation at Disney, I went to casting and applied for a job. And then in spring of 74, they called me in Connecticut and told me I had the job and that I needed to be here by a certain date, which was long before school was out in Connecticut. And then I'd gotten the job I applied for, which was Jungle Cruise skipper. So I leave home and got on an Eastern Airlines jet, the official airline of the Magic Kingdom, and got off at McCoy Jetport, with 2-story block building. Came out and collected my baggage from the outdoor baggage claim on metal shelving with no speed belt or anything. And then the stuff I brought with me to set up home in a trailer I'd rented on the phone from Kissimmee Overnight Campground didn't fit in one cab. So I had $70 in my pocket, and the 2 cabs to get to Kissimmee cost $35. So I started my life out in Central Florida, not knowing a soul, $35 in my pocket in a rented Shasta trailer that was so small that I had to get a storage unit to put my housewares in. And I had brought my 10-speed bike in a box on the plane, which you could do for free. And I was going to ride my bike back and forth to work at Disney because the campground advertised they were 2 miles from Disney. Well, they were 2 miles from the exit off of 192 onto Disney property, which you couldn't ride a bike on anyway, which I found out after I got to the toll plaza. and had to go around down 435 through Lake Buena Vista, Reams Road, 13 miles it was from where I had rented this trailer that I would have to ride my bike. And I'm from Connecticut, not used to the humidity. There were no shoulders on those roads at that time. It was nothing but orange groves as far as your eye could see. 2 cars passing each other meant you would run off the road. I did a trial run to Disney University the day before my traditions class, and I had been run off the road 4 times and fell off the bike. I was bruised and bleeding, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't, and I was sweating, and I'm like, so what am I going to do? I can't afford to take a cab back and forth for 3 days. It's going to be a week or 2 before I get a paycheck. I have $35. So the next day I took a cab to the Disney University, but I brought changes of clothes and all of my toiletries with me and hid them in bushes outside. And then at night went to the Fort Wilderness campground and slept on the beach and used the public showers there to shower and change and get back to the university through unscrupulous ways. It's my 3rd day of traditions. The traditions was 3 days back then, and a man comes in and calls my name, and I think he's calling me to take me to my attraction, and he literally brings me out into the parking lot and says, I need your ID and your name tag. So I give him to him. I think he's going to process something.
Right.
And he says, we made a mistake. We're sorry. Are you blind in one eye? And I said, yeah, I put it on my application. And they said, we somehow missed that, but our insurance won't allow you to work here. We're dreadfully sorry. You need to get off the property. I refused to leave, and so he called security. So they got a security escort to drive me off property, which was only 200 yards from where the Disney University is. But then that's where he was instructed to dump me, just outside the guard gate. And so as he's driving, I said, would you please just listen to what's happened to me? And he's like, well, it's not going to make any difference. So he pulls the car over, and I tell the security guard this whole story. And I said, I'm literally a runaway, and I have $35. I had paid the cab to get there, I went and had a bike, put a deposit on the storage unit. I had $10 in my pocket on that day, $10. And I told this all to the security guard, and he said, there's a man named, are we allowed to say people's names?
Oh, yes.
There's a man named John Brownlee. He's in charge of employee relations, and he specifically deals with issues like this. And I think if he knew this happened to you, he'd be appalled. And I said, well, great. How do I find John Brownlee? And he says, his office is in the Magic Kingdom above the camera shop. And I'm like, well, can you take me there? And he said, well, I can take you to the entrance to the Magic Kingdom, but I can't. And then he stops himself and he goes, no. He goes, I've been told I have to take you off the property. And so I plead with him, and he does take me to the entrance of the Magic Kingdom. So I paid $5 to get into the Magic Kingdom, and I'm standing in front of that little wall on the side between Tony's Italian Square Cafe and it was cast members only, trying to get up the nerve to walk in there. And this man had given me beautiful audio directions for what door to go in. And I go up and I make my way to his office and ask his secretary if I can see him, and he sees me, and I'm telling him the story, and he's listening very intently. And then all of a sudden he goes, wait. So you're not an employee? I go, well, no, but I should be. And he goes, how did you get in here? And I said, well, I don't want to say because I don't want anybody to lose their job. And now he's insane. And I'm like, please calm down. Please, let me tell you this story. So I tell him straight. He said to me, he goes, young man, he goes, you are assuring me that this was on your application, that you put your proper vision on that application. And I said, yes. And he said, I will take care of this. And he made a phone call, and he told me it might take a couple, 3 days, but not to worry, he'd get it taken care of. I didn't have a phone in my trailer, so I had to go to a payphone and call him every day until he got it worked out. But he did get it worked out, and he told me they had to hire me. And but at the end of the meeting, I asked him if he could take me to City Hall to get me a refund because I only had $5, and he did that too. And I got my So I was back up to $10. However, the man who was responsible for casting at the time was a gentleman by the name of Ralph Mitchell. And his job was on the line, I guess, if anyone were hurt in their involvement, because I wasn't technically qualified to work there because of this impairment. So he decided right then and there he was going to make it his mission to make sure that I would not be happy working at Walt Disney World, so he could get rid of this possibility. And he started out by saying, fine, I went to casting and they told me I was going to work in wardrobe, handing out costumes. I'm like, that's not the job I was hired for. Well, the job you're hired for has already been filled. And I'm like, I want the job I was hired for. And he said, we were able to agree to cast you. He goes, but we cannot have you in a guest contact position. Finally, we decide that I could be a busboy at the Pueblo Room at the Contemporary, which he thinks is going to be the death sentence of me. When I get there, well, I love it because every day it was cash in your pocket. The tips were cash. So, and they were good, and the restaurant was popular, and I made the best money. I would just make tons of money, which I would save up and spend, and every single time there was a change of talent at the top of the World Supper Club, I went to this. I thought I had died and gone to heaven. I was seeing, I saw Rita Moreno and the King Sisters and Diane Carroll and Buddy Rich. So then it took 9 months of fighting while I worked at the Pueblo Room to finally get my transfer to the Jungle Cruise.
Tell us some Jungle Cruise skipper stories, because that's one thing I always wanted to do, was to be a Jungle Cruise skipper, because that is just one of like a dream job of mine, but I never got to do it. So what was that like?
Well, I'll tell you, the thing that was wonderful about it was also a negative about it, which was that I would improvise a great deal, as most people did, but they would get chastised for it and stop. So I did a great deal of improvisation on my cruises, and was recognized, not to do, well, I will toot my own horn. I was really recognized as being the best staff member on the job, to the point that it was decided by upper management that anytime there was an ambassador, at the time they were soliciting countries to sponsor, when they thought countries were going to sponsor the pavilions at Epcot. So tour guides and top management would come on the ride all the time with ambassadors from the various countries. So anytime there was an ambassador in the park, or anytime there was a major celebrity in the park, when I got to work, I was told not to go into rotation, and I just sat on the dock all day long waiting, so that when that person came, whoever was driving the boat that was next had to get off so I could get on. Every 4 months, when I got my employee review, it was a negative review because of all of the improv I did.
Yeah.
So finally, one day it was the ambassador from Australia. She was a woman, and it was Bill Holscher, who was the head of the Magic Kingdom at the time, operations of the Magic Kingdom. And he introduces me to her, and he takes my hand, and he says, "We're looking for a great ride, Mike." And I said, "You're going to get exactly the script." I had just come from my
Now,
review.
who was this?
This is Bill Holscher,
Right.
in charge of theme park operations.
And who was the guest?
The ambassador from Australia.
Okay, yeah.
And he said, and I said, I intend to deliver it word for word as written. And he was just about to let go of my hand. He pulled me in toward me and he said, "You do, and you won't have a job tomorrow." Literally telling me that if I didn't say the stuff that I get written up for saying, that I wouldn't have a job the next day, because they knew my stuff was fucking funny. So that's how that would go. So yeah, they loved it, but officially I couldn't get a good employee review because I was doing my own stuff.
See, this is what I've always said this. The people at the top,
Yeah.
if it doesn't make them laugh, they're not satisfied. But the people underneath them are so worried about keeping their jobs and pleasing everybody. They please nobody. But you get up high enough, you can say, no, this isn't funny. You know, and the writing is the place where we fall down.
One of the things I did consistently that happened on this cruise with this ambassador was, for the longest time, and I don't know that it isn't still there, but just before you come up to the python in the tree, there's a little cave thing here on your right, and it was empty. It was clearly meant to be something. I don't know if they ran out of budget or whatever, but there's just always this little cave entrance with nothing in it. So I would direct everyone's attention to this cave and make sure that the whole boat was looking on the opposite shore of where the python was, and so they wouldn't see the python coming. And then as the front of the boat was right there, I would turn around real quick and I would grab the shoulder of whatever woman was sitting nearest to me and go, look out for that python. And without question, she would scream, and then the whole boat would burst into laughter. But you're not allowed to touch people except to assist them getting on and off the boat. So I was always written up for that. So this day, with this ambassador, I do the whole thing, I go, look out for that python, and I grab her shoulder, and I'm going on with the rest of the thing, and then I feel it on my back, and it's Bill Holcher, and I'm holding her boob. I'm literally have her tit in my hand, and I oh my God. So I knew I had lost my job now. And God bless this woman. We got into the dock, and everyone gets off the boat, and he comes up to me, and there's steam coming out of his ears, and she stepped in between us, and she said, Bill, will you take a picture of me with him? This is the most exciting ride I've had at Disney with him. And she put her arm around me and saved my job. But among the many people I had, and I had Coretta Scott King, and I just had all kinds of celebrities. But back then, before she became a raving maniac against homosexuals, Anita Bryant, who sang the Florida Sunshine Tree song that droned on endlessly in Adventureland at the Sunshine Tree Terrace, was there as a guest. And I had Anita Bryant on my boat, and I loved Anita Bryant. And I thought that was my crowning glory of working at the Jungle Cruise, was having Anita Bryant. And then she tells the world I'm a pedophile and want to turn their children into gays. Not me personally.
Well, good. Yeah, good.
So,
that's moderately better.
it's interesting that, when I worked there, Disney was really a very conservative, homophobic company. And although I came out at Disney, I met my first gay people at Disney. I didn't even know what homosexual meant until I came to Disney. And my first lover I met on the Jungle Cruise. But the management was all so conservative, except for in the entertainment division.
Yeah.
And so the old saying was always, Disney hires lots of gay people because they know they need them in their lower positions in public, because they're the best concierges, the best guest service people, the best actors, and so they'll hire them for the hourly rates, but they will not promote them into management. The old saying was, except of course in the entertainment division, because without gay managers there'd be no entertainment division.
That's it. That's the fact. That was a bit of a surprise for me when I finally got into the company. I went, oh my goodness, that's Friends of Dorothy, I think was the phrase.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. You would, the Parliament House was the first, the big gay resort, and it opened in the 70s as well. And there's code words that started by Disney employees who wanted to be able to discuss going out without saying those words for fear of losing their job.
Yeah. That
still exists today. So if you were in the cafeteria or in your break room, and I wanted to know if you were going to be at the Parliament House tonight, what you would say is, do you want to go to Pizza Hut tonight? And if you were gay, you knew that was code for Parliament House. And Parliament House had a thing every Sunday called the Tea Dance, an afternoon disco raging thing, and it was hugely popular. But you couldn't say to anybody at Disney, do you want to go to Tea Dance, or do you want to go to the Parliament House? So you would say, are you going to be at church on Sunday? And church on Sunday meant, are you going to go to the Tea Dance?
That's crazy. At Disneyland, for many, many, many years, on Wednesday, after the park closed, all the security guards would meet in the parking lot of the Howard Johnsons across the street for choir practice.
Yes.
where they would stand in a circle and drink beer.
Yeah.
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 It's
That's
if love finds a way.
Yes.
I think it's the moral there.
And now, of course, you go there, and it's the gayest place in the world. Mm-hmm. And they've rainbow Mickeys and rainbow Mickey Mouse ears and discrete gay insignias on all kinds of knickknacks and coffee cups and stuff.
And the world hasn't come to an end.
But what this Professor Spillikin?
Oh, Spillikin.
Spillikin.
Professor Samuel J. Spillikin.
I'm not tying that in with you.
My dream was to work at Disneyland in the Golden Horseshoe Review, in the Wild West. There's a character there, a fellow named Wally Bogue, did his traveling salesman character. And that's what I wanted to do. Well, Magic Mountain in 1977 opened this crafts village called Spillikin Corners. And for entertainment, they were looking to hire someone to do a medicine pitch on the streets. And I went in, and I had just done a medicine pitch in college for one of the plays that we did, The Drunkard. And I walked in, and they gave me the script, which was the exact same script I had just done in college, because they'd gotten it from the same place I did. And so I took this thing, and I went, yeah, I got this. And I went outside on the construction site to the fellow who hired me, Ernie Guterjohn, God bless him. And as I was doing the thing for him, this truck drove by behind me, and he said, I can hear every word you said. And that's how I got the job. And so I became Professor Samuel J. Spillikin, BS, MS, PhD. You know what BS is.
Right.
MS is more of the same,
Oh.
and PhD is piled higher and deeper. And I put together this 10, 12-minute medicine pitch with comic props, and I did it for about 4 years at Magic Mountain.
Selling elixirs?
Selling Grandma
Sesame oil?
Spillikin's herbal cure and Indian elixir. Cures headache, earache, toothache, neuralgia, corns, warts, bunions, calluses, scalds, skin infections, hangnails, rheumatism, arthritis, muscular aches and pains, heart and arteries, high or low blood pressure, heart disease, fallen arches, or house-made knee. So I'm there for 4 years doing this. And then I made a trip with my girlfriend. We went to Disneyland one day. And I'm standing, she's in the bathroom, it is broiling hot, and I'm outside. And suddenly I look up, and standing in front of me is Tigger, with neon stripes and the little beady eyes. And I said, and he went, I said, hot out here. He goes, and I said, oh, hot in there too, huh? He leans forward and he goes, you're that crazy professor, aren't you? I said, yeah, I guess I am. He said, I'm a big fan of yours. I said, well, Tigger, I'm a big fan of yours. Now, a year later, they're holding auditions for the 25th anniversary season at Disneyland, and they were looking for someone to understudy Wally Bogue at the Golden Horseshoe. And I hear about this, and I went to the audition. I took my medicine bag with me. I took my cane, and they called my name for the audition. I come walking up, and the head of talent booking was sitting there, Sonny Anderson, next to Wally Bogue, the two of them sitting up front. And as I walked by the table, Sonny turns to Wally and says, this is the kid I told you about. No, he was the head of entertainment, but he'd heard about me. I've always said, you know, the way you get your dream to come true is you stay where you are and just do the best job you can.
Right.
And that's what I did at Magic Mountain. Mm-hmm. And as a result, I got to, walk into Disneyland and get my dream job. And what I wanted to do more than anything in the world, the way you wanted to be a Jungle Cruise guide, I wanted to be a comic at the Golden Horseshoe Review, and I got to do it for 2 years. That's the beginning of my life. That's the beginning of my professional life.
I feel stupid right now because I didn't know that you had done that.
Yeah, I did. I'll give you a copy of my book. Be sure to pick up a copy of my book.
It's funny because I just watched on Disney Plus the when they did the
Golden Horseshoe show with Walt. Yeah.
Oh my God, how fun! God, you've had a great career.
Yeah, and here we are now.
And here we are.
I want to get to talking about Gopar.
Yes.
Tell me about this project.
Gopar is the Greater Orlando Performing Arts Relief, and it is hopefully going to become a major permanent charitable foundation that is specifically in place to deal with actors, well, anyone who works in the area of performing arts, stage managers, designers, technicians, sound and lights people, actors, singers, dancers, and their unique challenges that they face working often in a gig type of existence. Don't always, well, usually might work for 3 or 4 different companies, none of them full-time, don't have the benefits that come with a full-time job, often don't qualify for unemployment. The pandemic hit, and all of a sudden all the shows are canceled, the theaters are closed. 30 years, Sluice is closed now. And we had friends who just didn't know how they were going to feed their children or themselves, and realized there was a crisis. So it was just my dear friend, my composer partner, Rich Sharon, Kenny Howard, who I mentioned before, and myself. We started the Social Distance Showcase in April. And on Saturday nights, we would do a little variety show virtually and ask people to donate. And as quick as the money came in, we gave it out to, we were blown away. We said, here's an application, and 190 people signed up. So we decided we didn't want to play judge and jury over our friends and neighbors, so we just decided to trust if someone was asking for it, they must have needed it. And as quick as the money came in, we would just go down the list and PayPal people $100. And we realized the 3 of us couldn't keep up with this need, and the pandemic wasn't ending. So there was a Friday arts leadership meeting that was happening with the heads of all the theaters on Fridays. And to that meeting, we brought this situation, and everyone got on board and said, well, let's get together. And as the discussions went on, we're like, you know, the pandemic isn't the only time this happens, and people have individual crises. There is nothing here for our performing artists. So we partnered with St. Luke's Church, a United Methodist Church, which has a lot of Disney and Universal in their congregation, entertainment people. And they had the infrastructure, so right now they're hosting our website, and when you donate to us, it gets processed through them, so it's 501(c) status and tax deductible. Nice. And they have a history of helping charitable organizations getting started and then siphoning off and becoming their own. So we, I don't know when this is going to air, but it was over Labor Day weekend that we did the launch of Gopar with a webathon. And when the article came out in the Sentinel to say what we were doing, in the 24 hours following the article, we had already raised $11,000. And in the days between the article and the launch of the webathon, that had grown to $20,000. And so we'd raised $20,000 before the telethon began. And as we're taping this, the telethon is in process, so we don't know what the end result is going to be. But our goal was to raise $50,000 before we would start dispersing funds, and it would be done in a more holistic fashion with counseling and career advice, and you know, if we need to pay someone's rent, then we would pay the rent. And so it seems to be going well.
How can people get in touch with the organization?
It's very simple. Gopar, Gopar.org. Yeah.
Okay.
And there's a donate button there, and there's also the button to click on to ask for assistance.
Wonderful. 2 questions for you. One, what is it that planted the bug in your wig that you wanted to be a Jungle Cruise guide? And 2, was it what you thought it was going to be?
I'm 63 years old. It is the only job I've ever had in my entire life where I never once woke up and thought, I don't want to go to work today. I look forward to going to work. And I've done a lot of interesting shit. I mean, I've got shows on cruise ships that I've been around the world to put on Get Up, and I traveled with Jim Henson's Sesame Street Live as a life-size tap dancing Muppet for 2 seasons, and I've seen the world, and I've done work all over. And till this day, those 2 years on the Jungle Cruise are the fondest memories of my life and my career. But it was working there at a time where that company made you feel like you were a piece of gold. Where they reminded you daily, the show can't happen without you, and showed appreciation in ways that just never happen anymore. And I know it sounds clichéic and it's pixie dust, but it really was the way. I would wager to guess that 80% of the people employed there at the time I worked there absolutely lived for coming to work every day and doing what they were doing and feeling like they were part of creating the magic.
Yeah.
And you're lucky if that's 10% now.
Yeah. It's a fact that the quality of the pixie dust was a lot better back then.
Yes.
It's been cut with chalk and milk
Yeah.
sugar,
Yeah.
and you have to manufacture it yourself, and you have to apply it liberally before you go to work.
Yes.
Because it's such a
While you launder your own costume.
exactly. I know exactly what you're talking about. It comes in waves. Sometimes it's just wonderful there. They treat their people like assets, and sometimes they treat them like assholes, and it vacillates.
Yeah.
All theme parks have that.
Yeah. Questions you sent that you might ask were, who at Disney inspired your career or whatnot? And
Pick one.
Well, for me, it's not a person.
Okay.
It was everything that happened while I was there.
Right.
So when I first started, my playwriting started because I was at Disney. I'd never thought about writing a play. I never considered myself a writer. But they did the company satire every year in October, and we did usually at the Diamond Horseshoe at night after the park was closed for employees and their families. And the very first one I did, The Wizard of Diz, where I played Toto, who was a stand-up poodle who spoke in snide sides to the audience, was attended by Lillian Disney.
Nice.
She came up in a limousine right through Frontierland and stepped out and got to meet her at a cocktail party after, and it was just fabulous. But anyway, one year they did a show called The Ears of Our Lives, and they decided they wanted parody lyrics written to Broadway show tunes, and nobody raised their hand, so I just said, well, I'll try it. So I did these parody lyrics, and that was my first hand at writing. And they went over really well, and then they came back next time and said they wanted to do a wholly original show, and would I write it? And I did, and that sort of whet my appetite for writing. And then when I was very unceremoniously fired from Disney because of Ralph Mitchell, he finally got rid of me. I started doing Disney parodies on my own at the Footlight Theater at the Parliament House.
Monorail Inferno.
But the first one was called Forbidden Disney, and so I got a cease and desist letter from Disney, and
Now they did a Forbidden Disney too.
which they stole from me, basically.
Really?
It was kind of it's really what became the
Comedy Warehouse.
The Comedy Warehouse
Yeah.
thing really was absolutely taken from me, and not only but
Interesting.
they actually had me in and to give writing examples and stuff, and then they didn't hire me, and then I went to see the show on opening night, and it was everything I had given them, and I had no proof.
Yeah.
I mean, so I had a love-hate relationship with the company, as you can well imagine. So I did Forbidden Disney. They sent a cease and desist. I went to the Sentinel about it. A lawyer saw the article in the Sentinel, agreed to do pro bono for me, and finally, Disney was trying to say he doesn't have the right to use our theme park as a setting for his play. And they're like, that's fundamentally untrue and unfactual, and you know it. It's a public place. If he wants to, he can't come and film there, but if he wants to write about it, you can't stop him. So they finally made the point that because of the close proximity to Disney World, if I had Disney in the title, people might assume it was
a Disney production. Yeah.
And they're like, at the world's largest all-gay resort. But so we finally decided I would change the name to Forbidden Kingdom, and they would let it go.
There you go. There you
so
go.
we changed it to Forbidden Kingdom, but kept all the artwork the same. And the show, we had gangbusters, but within it, because I had been a shepherd at the Living Nativity,
Right.
and Ralph Mitchell showed up at 2 a.m. to say he can't be in this. The stage doesn't have a railing on it. Well, it was under the captain's tower. The stage was
Right.
2 inches
I
off the ground.
remember.
And Marita Orr, the director, just said, then fine, I'm not doing it. What do you want to do? I can't. We open in 2 days. So they let me do it, and I did it for 2 years, and they used my picture for 15 years in the advertising it. But so in this play, I had one of the premises was that they're trying to save money, so they tell the people doing the Living Nativity that they can't use live musicians anymore, and they can't use music that's not in the public domain or that Disney doesn't own, and that she's going to have to find existing music tracks in the Disney library to perform the Nativity to. So in my play, I had someone from audio at Disney steal the a music track for the Kids of the Kingdom show that was happening in Tomorrowland. And we did the living nativity with authentic ecclesiastical. There was a monastery that was just closing, and we bought their vestments. And so we did this gorgeous Baroque nativity, but everyone was singing and dancing to the songs for the Kids of the Kingdom. Well, the show had closed. We go to reopen it, and I get a call, and it's the legal department of Disney. And the man says, "Mr. Wanzie, I understand that you're reopening this Forbidden Kingdom, that Disney show, that's Forbidden Kingdom." And I said, "Yes." And he says, if you do this show one more time, we will sue the pants off you and we will win." And like, "We've been down this road before." He goes, "Yes, but we didn't know at the time that you were performing just stolen tracks from a Disney show that's not available to buy." And I said, "Yeah, that is sort of true." And he said, "All right, then we have your assurance that this is not going to play again?" And I said, "Yes, sir, you do." And he said, "All right, then." And by the way, it was the funniest goddamn thing I've ever seen.
There you go. There you go.
And then I got a second cease and desist for Monorail Inferno, and they didn't want that because it was after the big monorail fire,
Right.
and in June of '75. And that one they were relentless on. And so finally, I got the one and only known picture of that monorail actually on fire, had it printed on T-shirts, and my entire cast went out and sat on the monorail opposite other people with a picture of the monorail they were on burning. And eventually, they stopped loading the monorail, and we were riding around on an empty monorail. And then security came on, and lawyers came on, and we sat in that monorail in those shirts and negotiated them pulling off the cease and desist letter.
I like to talk to the people in Disney legal.
Yeah.
Save your breath. That's all I'm saying. Save your breath.
We won. We won the negotiation.
Oh, of course.
They gave us Mickey Mouse T-shirts. We all took off the ones with the burning monorail on them, handed them over, put on the Mickey Mouse T-shirts, agreed not to wear the T-shirts anymore, and they rescinded the cease and desist.
Nice. And what project you're working on now with Wanzie?
Well, I have a page on Eventbrite, which is Wanzie, Wanzie .eventbrite, and anything that I'm doing that's ticketed shows up on that page. So that's probably the best way. And if you find me on Facebook and give me your email address, then I would sign you up for the Wanziegram, which is my 20-year-old every Thursday morning at 6 a.m. arts and entertainment newsletter that's free.
6 a.m.?
Yeah, it goes out into your inbox at 6 a.m.
You're not gonna
So
come
if you want to
door.
read it over coffee, you've got it. And basically the Wanziegram always lets you know what I'm up to, but also lists auditions and performing opportunities, and then there's an entire theater listing in there. And it's a good thing to get. It's free. So find me on Facebook. I'm the only Michael Wanzie on Facebook. So.
Let's hope so.
Yes.
Thank you, Michael, so much. This has been most enlightening and very different.
If I can enlighten you, that's really something. You've lost a lot of weight. I'm glad to see you look great.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Nice of you to notice. Everybody, thank you for tuning in to Wild Rides. I'm Ron Schneider. Follow your bliss, folks, and you too will have a wild ride.